The Second World War, despite its fatal darkness, gave rise to many stories of people who defied their own limits and astonished an entire world. In a patriarchal society, where women had little role in the fighting, one woman surprised everyone with her extraordinary talent, skill, and self-determination. Her name is Lyudmila Pavlichenko, better known as Lady Death. The young sniper is recognized and admired for having shot to death no less than 309 Nazi soldiers. But her fame is also due to her being the first Soviet to be received with honors in the United States, since she was invited to the White House itself. What was the life of the most effective sniper in history like? And how did she kill more than 300 Germans? Sit back and get ready to learn about the fascinating military life of Lyudmila Pavlichenko. Are you ready? Then prepare to travel back in time. On July 12, 1916, the town of Bila Tserkva in Soviet Ukraine witnessed the birth of one of the most important women in the history of the world's armed forces. At age 14, her family decided to move to the city of Kiev, where she took her first steps as a worker in an arms factory. As a teenager, she decided to join the Osoaviakim shooting club. Several years later, Lyudmila began her history studies at the University of Kiev. It was in June 1941, while training in this discipline, that Adolf Hitler's Germany began its invasion campaign in Soviet territory and sent more than 4 million soldiers and approximately 4,400 tanks. This was the beginning of what was popularly known as Operation Barbarossa. By this time, Lyudmila had made great strides in her rifle training and decided it was time to serve her homeland. With a brave spirit, she enlisted the ranks of the 25th Infantry Division of the Red Army. As you can imagine, regardless of her undeniable talent, the young woman had trouble being accepted just because she was born a woman. Initially, she was offered to work as a nurse, but she flatly refused. However, there was something about her that was going to surprise her superiors, and of the 2,000 women who ran to represent her country, Lady Death was one of the few who managed to climb the ranks. Many say that the highest authorities were shocked to see that she could shoot down any target that was placed in front of her eyes. However, without enough weapons for each soldier due to the surprise of the German attack, the first task she was assigned was digging trenches, and her only weaponry was a hand grenade. Her debut battle took place over a period of 2 months in the city of Odessa. In this confrontation, Pavlichenko reached a surprising number of victims. 187 soldiers were annihilated thanks to the impeccable effectiveness of this skilled combatant who was beginning to show that women of war are to be feared. Forced to withdraw from the area, the troops in which the young girl participated moved to Sevastopol, within the Crimean Peninsula. There, her victim count rose to a whopping 257, and in a few months, her mark would reach no less than 309 casualties. Do you want to know what was the weapon that Lyudmila Pavlichenko used to achieve such a number of casualties? The sniper attacked her enemies with a Tokarev SVT-40 7.62mm semi-automatic rifle and a telescopic sight with a range of 800 meters. It featured a gas-actuated reload firing system and an oscillating bolt. Its maximum speed was 840 meters per second. Such was the terror caused by her technique that the Nazi army sent soldiers exclusively to get rid of her, but none could achieve it. Lady Death, who at first was far from being the first choice to enter combat, would be appointed a sergeant and later a lieutenant. Also, she was repeatedly offered to change sides and join the Nazi forces, but she bluntly rejected all of these offers. However, things would take an unexpected turn as her military career lasted less than expected. In 1942, Lyudmila was unable to dodge a mortar fire that caused serious injuries, and she had no choice but to leave the battlefield. Because of her achievements and her courage, A month later, she was awarded the Golden Star and recognized as Hero of the Soviet Union, the highest decoration for members of the Red Army. After her retirement, Lyudmila Pavlichenko dedicated herself to training rookie shooters, but only for a short time, as other types of activities were in store for her. The head of the armed forces decided to use the image of the sniper for propaganda. She was sent to the United States as part of a campaign to stimulate the sending of troops to Europe. President Franklin Roosevelt received her with honors at the White House. She was not just another Soviet on American soil. She was the first person from that country to be welcomed by a U.S. government. Surprisingly, Lyudmila struck up an unexpected but fruitful relationship with Eleanor Roosevelt, the First Lady of the United States, and they set out on a tour of the country recounting the life experiences of the illustrious sniper. In addition to visiting the United States, Pavlichenko toured the United Kingdom and Canada, where she was presented with a Winchester rifle with a telescopic sight, which is currently on display in the Museum of the Armed Forces in Moscow. Lady Death had to endure the sexist harassment of the time through questions that had little to do with the war itself. Asked by Time magazine about the type of clothing used in the fighting, Pavlichenko was blunt. It seems that for Americans, the important thing is whether women wear silk underwear under the uniform. They still have to learn what is it that the uniform represents. Upon returning to the Soviet capital, she finished her career as a historian at the University of Kiev, and from the end of the war until 1953, she was an assistant to the main headquarters of the Soviet Navy and an active member of the Soviet Committee of War Veterans. Undoubtedly, she was an active and passionate woman for the military world. On October 10, 1974, Lyudmila Pavlichenko died of a stroke. But there's a phrase that immortalized the sniper's career. When she was asked how many men she had killed, she didn't hesitate. Men, I don't know. Fascists, 309. As is often the case, there are those who suspect that Pavlichenko's career was exaggerated for propaganda purposes. Some even dare to doubt that the amazing figure of casualties caused by the sniper is true. But there are plenty of those who praise her career and who, beyond the numbers, have no doubts about the legacy that Lady Death left in the military world. And now we want to ask you, what do you think of Lyudmila Pavlichenko's career? Do you believe in her legacy? Or do you think her career was exaggerated for propaganda purposes? Leave us your opinion below. And don't forget to subscribe and activate notifications to learn about many more military events that left their mark on history. Thank you for joining us, and until the next video.